he refers to the land of the Chaldeans. Abraham lived in the land of the Chaldeans. It was governed by Pharaoh, and Potiphar's hill was there, which obviously is an Egyptian name. The facts are there was no Chaldea before the 12th century BC. The first mention of Chaldeans is in the 9th century BC. The Chaldean dynasty did not even come into existence until the 8th century BC, and Egypt never ruled Mesopotamia. We have the term Egyptus, who was, according to the book of Abraham, was the wife of Ham, mother of Pharaoh, and it is a Chaldean word meaning forbidden. And it's obviously intended to be the source of the name Egypt, the name of the country. Here's the fact. Egypt is a Greek word, not an Egyptian word. It's Aegyptos. It's from the Egyptian term Akapta, which was the Egyptian name for the city of Memphis. The Hebrew name for Egypt was Mizraim. I want to make sure, I'm going to skip this. These a little bit, okay? Well, the Tower of Babel, of course, you have to believe in the Tower of Babel if you believe in the Book of Mormon, because that's where the chariots came from. No linguistic scholar gives any credence to the Tower of Babel. It's an etiological myth. Here's an odd one, because Hebrew names occur in the Book of Ether. The Jaredites, of course, did not speak Hebrew. They left the Tower of Babel before the languages were confounded, and the Hebrew language did not exist. And yet here you've got 3 Hebrew names in the Book of Ether. How did they get there? We have to talk about, for just a moment, engraving on plates. And we can go through this real fast. The reason that they were engraved on plates was because they couldn't write much because the plates were small. Okay? Think about how these plates were produced by Nephi and Moroni, or Mormon. That was not intentional. These guys are sitting there with a stylus of some kind, scratching out character by character on metal. That's where he talks about it. Could there have developed something like Reformed Egyptian? Yes, of course it could. Yeah. Languages changed over the course of decades and centuries. And so there could have been an altered version of Egyptian. However, not all of the Book of Mormon was written in Reformed Egyptian. Do you realize that? Only the part that was abridged by Mormon was written in Reformed Egyptian. The part that Nephi wrote, the plates of Nephi, were simply found by Mormon. They were written in Egyptian, and he attached them. So that's a quiz question for you. Yeah.
Does it say they were written in Egyptian?
I think it's in the design. Yeah, okay. Here's an example of Egyptian hieroglyphics. Above, those are the hieroglyphic characters, little pictures, and those characters mean, I have given bread, and they were probably pronounced something like, Al Eretana Tau. If that were written in Hebrew characters, or if it were written in Hebrew, the Hebrew way of saying that would be Natali Lehem. And it would take those seven characters, is it? If you were to be if you were to be writing the Egyptian sound in Hebrew characters, it would look something like the characters below, which I use English characters instead of Hebrew characters. Here's examples of Egyptian Demotic script and Hebrew script. Remember, they wrote in Egyptian because the Hebrew would have taken up too much room. There are 22 characters in the Hebrew alphabet. Some have slightly different forms. Egyptian Demotic script was also an alphabetic thing. They didn't need to use Egyptian. They could have used Hebrew easily. Here are the characters of the Anthon transcript. Notice too that no divinely inspired translator has been able, among the Mormon prophets, has been able to tell us what those characters say. Well, I've got We're supposed to stop. I'm already 10 minutes over. So
Okay.
let's stop.
Dinner's not till later.
Well, okay. You're sure you don't mind? Okay. I'm back to Washington's diary. Here's a description on a pocket watch presented to George Washington to his wife. To my dearest and most precious wife, and true, I presented. I won't read the whole thing. There it is. Now, ask yourself. Would this have been engraved on a pocket watch? We see all kinds of signs if you read the Book of Mormon, with it, keeping in mind, this was engraved character by character on metal. Okay? Would this kind of thing occur? There are dozens and dozens of examples of editing on the go in the Book of Mormon, where, for example, he says, "Wherefore I, Nephi, did make a record upon these other plates, which give an account, or which gives a greater account of the works." Do you think that he would have done that engraved? Or the next one. Even the very God of Israel do men trample under their feet. I say trample under their feet, but I would speak, in other words, they set him at naught. I call this editing on the go. Next time you read the Book of Mormon, as you are supposed to do, watch for these, editing on the go. You can find a lot of them simply by searching for the phrase, or in other words, here's an example, the wordiness. Here's an example of it. On the left is a wordy passage. On the right is what I would have written if I had been having to do it on plates. Okay? And again, there are hundreds of examples of this. There's one. Here's more wordiness. The original on the left is on the right. This one is beautiful. Jaredites were just as wordy. Tight like unto it, like unto it, tight like unto it, still more wordiness. Commencement. This was a favorite word of Joseph Smith's. Unnecessary repetition. All through the Book of Mormon. Well, this one from 3rd Nephi. I mean, even Jesus was repetitious. I bear record of the Father, Father bears record of me, the Holy Ghost will bear record of me and the Father, and so on. Bearing record all over the place. In all honesty, I have to take a few minutes and point out some criticisms that have been made on a linguistic basis that I do not think are valid or very strong at any rate. One is the Reformed Egyptian. The first kind of objection is, there was no such language. Well, there are all kinds of ancient languages are being discovered all the time, and there's no reason why there shouldn't have been a Reformed Egyptian. The "and it came to pass" thing. This is a favorite, people making fun of the Book of Mormon. They don't seem to realize that it also occurs frequently in the King James Bible. I counted at least 500-600 times. And there's no reason to object to it. And by the way, in the Old Testament, it's not only the phrase, "and it came to pass," in the Old Testament, but the same Hebrew term is translated in other ways, such as, "and it then happened," or "what then occurred was," or something like that. To show you what it would have looked like in Hebrew are these characters. Woyahi. And gee, as a shorthand term, it's a way of saying then, and so, all right. It's not good English style, but it certainly was not necessarily poor Hebrew style. Also, the fact that he said a Jew in Jacob, I don't find that. Some people have objected to the passage where in 2nd Nephi he goes to the cold and silent grave when no traveler can return, as being a quote from Hamlet's soliloquy, "To be or not to be," but it also occurs in the book of Job. or the objection where it's prophesied that Christ would be born in Jerusalem, the land of our fathers, born at Jerusalem in the land of our fathers. We do that all the time, you know. I mean, I say I'm from Roseburg. I'm not from Roseburg. I'm from Dixonville, which is 5 miles outside of Roseburg, and Bethlehem is 6 miles outside of Jerusalem.